It says somewhere in the Bible that everything done in secret will come to light. This is an amazing time. They'll be talking about it 1,000 years from now. We finally are having real accountability after all that fake stuff they put this country through, and President Trump through especially. Well, you know what happened. He's back. President Trump is back. And actually, with the break of Biden, it makes the presidency, both of his presidencies, seem even more significant. But now that we know that an auto pen was actually possibly, whoever was running that pen was running the country, we have late-breaking information that there will be a federal investigation into all of this. Just a short period ago, we have word from an executive order from President Trump himself that this will all be investigated. People most likely broke the law. I'm reading directly. The counsel to the president, in consultation with the attorney general and the head of any relevant executive department or agency, shall investigate, to the extent permitted by law, whether certain individuals conspired to deceive the public about Biden's mental state and unconstitutionally exercise the authorities and responsibilities of the president. That's against the law. There's a specific law against all of this stuff. The investigation shall address any activity, coordinated or otherwise, to purposely shield the public from information regarding Biden's mental and physical health. Any agreements between Biden's aides to cooperatively and falsely deem recorded videos of the president's cognitive inability as fake. By the way, that's known as a conspiracy when you start bringing the aides in. This part I like a lot. The policy documents. The counsel to the president shall also investigate, in consultation with the attorney general, the circumstances surrounding Biden's supposed execution of numerous executive actions during his final years in office. This investigation shall address the policy documents for which the auto pen was used, including clemency grants, executive orders, presidential memoranda, or any other policy decisions, the pardons, all of it. Now, I saw one message that the people who receive the pardon should be nervous. I don't know. I think once you get a pardon, no matter how it was signed, it might be yours. But Biden needs to be nervous. And his so-called Politburo, the senior aides who conspired to keep the condition of Joe Biden a secret from the public, who may have been operating this auto pen. There's no way Biden could have actually, in his mental state, have understood all of these names. Who were they? Where were they coming from? But these people are young enough and sharp enough to know. I wonder if anybody told them if they did it, they'd be breaking the law. There's a specific law for it. 18 U.S. Code 912. This is about impersonating an officer or employee of the United States. Whoever falsely assumes or pretends to be an officer or employee acting under authority of the United States or any department, agency, or officer, right? Pretended character, that's a key phrase here, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned for not more than 3 years. However, when you add conspiracy into this, that 3 years becomes 15 years real fast. So, this is exciting, and it needs to happen, and it's happening, and that's great. Next, please. Look at this. What is it? It's a gross fungus under a microscope. The kind of fungus, the same kind of fungus that those Chinese people tried to bring into the United States. In fact, successfully brought it into the United States so they could study it at one of the top labs in the country. What is this stuff called? A special kind of fungus. Fungus Aurelium, Delium, Fusarium, Geranium. Something like that. You can't bring this stuff into the country secretly, basically under any circumstances. Let's go a little bit further here. These two were arrested. They have ties to the Chinese Communist Party. That's a big deal. I already hear the fake news saying, well, everybody in China has ties to the Communist Party. Not like this, all right? Not like this. And they were sent, it looks like, with this special fungus that can do real damage to crops and to human beings. It's a potential agroterrorism weapon. It could wipe out our crops, could destroy and poison large percentage of U.S. crops. And its toxins cause vomiting, liver damage, and reproductive defects if consumed by animals and human beings. You know, it's interesting that for the first time I can remember in a long time, the government actually was doing something under Donald Trump before a crisis happened. You know, they're always reactive after the fact, trying to clean stuff up. He came out with that, hey, we're revoking visas for the people tied to the Chinese Communist Party who say they're studying in the United States, much to the lament of the fake news.
In another blow to international students in higher education across the U.S., the State Department says that it will work with the Department of Homeland Security to stop some Chinese students from attending school in the U.S.
In another blow to higher education, how about in a great boost for security and safety? These are not the kind of risks. China's not taking these risks. No way. What else, Charlie?
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced Wednesday that the administration will, quote, aggressively revoke visas for Chinese students, including those with connections to the Chinese Communist Party or studying in critical fields.
They're reporting this like it's a bad thing. Like, oh, can you believe this is happening? It's a good thing, and it's already yielding benefits potentially. And they found all kinds of information on the characters' computers, laptop computers. Looks like they brought this stuff here deliberately because they wanted to, I don't know, weaponize it. What do they call that again? Gain of function research. They had all kinds of grants from the Chinese Communist Party. This is bad, bad stuff. And it reminds me, when it comes to China, how ineffective Joe Biden was and how you really need somebody. We need somebody like President Trump. When you have a government sending bioterrorism into America, which approach to China is the most effective one? This is a reflection of the two men and their views over the past 15 years or so.
I have many people from China that I do business with. They laugh at us. They feel we're fools. You know, they're getting away with absolute murder.
China's a great nation, and we should hope for the continued expansion.
I don't want to lose $300 billion a year to China when we can't afford to build schools for our children, when we can't afford to build highways, when we can't afford to build railways, when we can't afford to build bridges. I want money to be invested in jobs and in this country. I don't want to rebuild China.
A rising China is a positive development, not only for China, but for America and the world writ large.
It was China's fault, and China's going to pay a big price what they've done to this country. China's going to pay a big price what they've done to the world. This was China's fault, and just remember that.
554,064 American dead from COVID-19. A lot of families want to know how this happened, how it got here. Have you had a chance to speak to any of your international partners, any of President Xi, who I know you go way back with? Have you had a chance to ask him if these reports are true, that China maybe misled the world at the beginning?
No, I have not had that conversation with President Xi. Thank you.
Now, is it just because one's tough and one's not tough? No, it's because one is compromised. One is tough and one is compromised. Joe Biden. Throughout all of that time, his family was receiving money from China. First, they said they did no business in China. Then they said they did business, but they lost money. And then it turned out they actually made money. Good faith seed money. This guy Xi is one, well, let's face it, he totally outmatched Joe Biden. And all that time they spent together, he sized up Joe pretty good. A weak figure who could be compromised. Now Xi is trying to compromise our entire country with this crazy, what's it called again? Fungus geranium. And it can do horrible things to people and crops. Bad, bad stuff. But finally, our eyes are open. Okay, next, please. Zelensky and Putin. I'm really sick of this war. Aren't you? Why did Joe Biden go all in with Zelensky? And the entire country, for that matter. I mean, everybody, it was a little bit much, right? The Ukraine flag and Congress and the pins and all that stuff. I don't like war, but I don't know. I just wasn't that kind of committed to it. I mean, let's face it, Europe. Let's take a look at the map of Europe. Be honest, who knows where Ukraine is? I had to look it up myself. I'm pretty sure it's the tannish one there, all right? It's pretty big, actually. That's Ukraine. 99% of Americans, including me, couldn't figure that out until not that long ago. And it's very, very easy to forget. I know it has strategic significance, but so does Russia, and so do we. Biden went way too in the tank for one side here. And what needs to be done is what's happening. President Trump is essentially neutral here, all right? A new kind of, right? He's going to broker peace between these two maniacs. And that's great. He can actually talk to both sides. That's something Joe Biden could not do.
For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power.
Going over there and saying that may have felt good and the left may have gone crazy, but it's dangerous and damaging to American strategic options. We want options. And maybe we got to talk to Putin. We got to talk to Zelensky. Sun Tzu, the great ancient warrior philosopher, said you have to build your opponent a golden bridge to retreat across. It's very interesting. It might feel good to call somebody a war criminal, but President Trump, you know, he's got this reputation sometimes of shooting his mouth off. No, he's choosing his words very, very carefully around this conflict. Now, let's face it, they're still at war, and President Trump did say he would have had it wrapped up by now, right?
Well, Donald Trump has not ended this war on day one like he promised to do.
President Trump promised on day one, you will recall, that he would end this war on day one. Obviously, that hasn't happened.
Trump promised that he would solve the war in Ukraine and bring peace there within a day of taking office. 4 months later, no major changes.
Well, there have been major changes, but in the big changes, people are actually talking about peace. They're actually talking about bringing this war to an end. Yes, it did not end the first day. Why don't people make bold claims like that? Because they don't want the failure held against them. President Trump has said big, bold things, and he's not afraid to risk it, right? He's not afraid to, you know, somebody once told me, if you want to look good all the time, you really won't do anything. That was Obama, right? Obama, he always looked cool and elegant. But to actually press for something to happen every now and then, yeah, you may get a little egg on your face. So what? He's working for the greatest thing, peace.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.